Hello, sports fans. It's Friday, January 17th. Welcome to Cleats by Dre. I'm Dre. Let's talk some sports. All right, here we are. 1 week later, we're on to Notre Dame versus Ohio State in Atlanta, Monday night, 7:30 Eastern. Probably more like 7:45-ish Eastern, given how ESPN does things. It's a national championship of college football. I'll speak to the Notre Dame fans out there. I hope you've enjoyed this week. This is the ultimate chest pumping, chest puffing, whatever you want to call it, week. Hopefully you're walking around the office, in person or virtual, and you're strutting your stuff. It's rare, right? These chances are rare. No matter, you could be a Yankees fan, no matter whoever, you don't always get your team in this. And what a special first playoffs. You got Notre Dame beating Indiana, Georgia, Penn State. I looked at the start of this playoff, and I didn't. When have they ever beaten four teams like this in a row? When have they ever had the schedule for that? Unprecedented. It's been a war of attrition. The depth chart's getting a hit, but the team's been tough. And to give Ohio State credit too, they're here also. They've been tough. They've bounced back. It should make for a great game, great pageantry, great game. Soak it up. Until then, hopefully have a great one to reflect on. But I'm here today to make the case to you for how Notre Dame wins this game. And I'll give you a foreshadow. I'm not going to outright give a score prediction. I'll talk about it more. But I just want to focus on how Notre Dame wins this game. What we'll do is we'll start with some quick kind of cleanup from the Penn State game, the Orange Bowl. Then I'll touch on three of the bigger storylines you probably heard about. I'll hit you with five more less talked about points. And then I'll leave you with a fun game for you to play, to track along, to see if ND will actually pull off this upset. Something fun you could do with the kids too. First off, Penn State cleanup. Thanks for sticking with me for a little bit of rambling, a little bit of rapid reaction, right? They say in the content game, you can either be fast or good. I was fast. Maybe I was good too with that recap. But if you remember, I did a top 10 of the players that I most attributed for the outcome, right? I went Angeli, Aeneas Williams, Love, Mitch Jeter, Greathouse, Riley. On the Penn State side, Drew Aller, Christian Gray, James Franklin, Marcus Freeman. A couple honorable mentions, right? I didn't mention much of the guys on the lines. I'll call it Charles Jagusaw in particular, right? This guy tore his pec in August. Rehabs all year. Rarely he gets a chance to actually contribute, and he's needed to come in at right guard and performs admirably. So much so that he's now, unfortunately, with Knapp out at left tackle, he's got his job back. Isn't that a crazy boomerang? So he had honorable mention, and then Mitchell Evans too. I missed. Steady force, steady tight end. Notre Dame and their tight ends. He was getting open. He was making just enough of the plays. An important part of this offense that needs all the firepower they can get in this game. All right, now we're going to do a whip around the horn of three of the bigger storylines you've heard about, but I'm going to give you slightly different takes on them. Number one, there's two really excellent Jeremiahs in this game. Notre Dame has the best one. That's right, Jeremiah Love. And PFF, right, Pro Football Focus agrees with me. He's the highest graded player in this game, even over the all-world guy that would be the number one draft pick in any draft, even though he's a freshman, Jeremiah Smith. And I'll hand up first, right? I haven't seen a lot of Jeremiah Smith played. I didn't watch the Rose Bowl. I saw highlights. The guy's incredible, no doubt. But, God, we've been watching Jeremiah Love all year. And just it speaks to me also, and I'm not going to compare these Jeremiahs really in this point. Notre Dame has the better running quality, the better back material. If you look at a couple stats, yards per attempt after contact and missed tackles forced per attempt, this isolates the advantages of an offensive line. You look at the scatter plot, and thanks to Notre Dame football stats and analytics X handle for this, Jeremiah Love is an Ashton Genty category as some of the best in the country at this. Jadarian Price is equal with Trayvon Henderson, right? Ohio State's lead running back, our number 2 running back. Riley Leonard is on par with Quinshon Judkins, right? The Ole Miss transfer that is Ohio State's 1B to Henderson's 1A. Our quarterback is effective in those two stats, yards per attempt after contact and missed tackles forced per attempt, as Ohio State's NFL draft prospect 1B running back. And Will Howard is not a running threat. Now, he'll run, he'll get some yards, but he's not going to beat tacklers, he's not going to evade. You just got to account for him. So what I'm saying is Notre Dame has an A++ running back, an A/A- running back, and then a B+ runner of a quarterback. Ohio State has an AA- running back, a B+B running back, and a C. Individual talent, the data shows Notre Dame has a better running quality, just isolating that. The next point I want to make is going to be a little drawn out. Because what I'm going to do my best to demystify the 5-star advantage that Ohio State has, and you've probably heard about. And I believe in stars matter, right? Ari Wasserman, talks about this a bunch. At a certain point, it is about players, and recruiting grades do tend to live up. But I'm going to demystify this because this is everyone says the talent advantage, right? Urban Meyer said this is a talent game. Former Ohio State coach. Any way you look at it, I think Notre Dame has 1 or 0 5-star players, a ton of 4 stars, 57 4 stars, whatever it is. I don't know by what publication you want to go on. I saw a lot of saying Ohio State has 14 5-star players. On 247 Sports, that went on their roster, they had 20 5-star players. But folks, of those 20, 10 of them don't play. So throw them out right away. Let's get to it. Ohio State's defense, it's split, right? They have 10 5-stars, and their offense has 10 5-stars. Let's start with the defense. So 5 don't play automatically. 1 is Edric Houston, the freshman defensive end, doesn't play. 2 are underclassmen DBs. Aaron Scott Jr., a freshman, doesn't play. Jermaine Matthews Jr. is a sophomore who was playing because of injury, but he's back to the bench now. Senior defensive tackle Tywone Malone Jr. That's a name. That's out of a Key and Peele sketch. Tywone Malone Jr. Kidding aside, he barely plays. And the 5th is CJ Hicks, who played a lot at the start of the year, junior linebacker, likely to transfer. He really hasn't had a stat. He had 1 tackle versus Tennessee. He really hasn't played. He's upset with his role in the team. He's likely going to transfer. He had a quote back in November that said, "They need to put me on the effing edge." And he didn't say effing, folks. So, can you ever imagine a Marcus Freeman coach team having some guy say that? Jaden Mickey transferred earlier in the year, right? At the time, I think he was a 3rd cornerback for playing time. He wasn't saying stuff like that. Just, guys accepted it. They understood it. The guy making a decision. But, that's a tough quote. All right, so I left out 5 5-star players in the defense. Defensive line. You know about Jack Sawyer. You know about JT Tuimoloau. There's also Kenyatta Jackson. But I want to tell you about those 3. They're not as good as Penn State's pass rush, who we just faced. And we took some lumps for sure. Jack Sawyer is not as good as Abdul Carter. JT Tuimoloau is not Danny Dennis Sutton. And Kenyatta Jackson's on par with Amin Vanover. And this is based on the advanced stats of pressure rate and pass rush win rate. So yeah, Penn State's pass rush caused us trouble. I think they had 5 sacks. Abdul Carter was everywhere. Notre Dame was able to mitigate it in the second half and handle it and came out on the other side. So pass rush alone, Notre Dame just saw a better pass rush. Two more players. One is Caleb Downs, the sophomore, right, transfer from Alabama. By all accounts, he's an incredible player. Makes big-time plays, whether it's big-time punt returns or big-time tackle for losses. Let's not pretend, though, Xavier Watts, right? Our safety doesn't make this nearly a wash. Maybe they're different types of players, but let's understand that. And the last one is Sonny Styles, kind of linebacker safety. He's a big-time player. Notre Dame wanted him. There were crystal balls projecting we'd get him. When his brother Lorenzo was having success here as a wide receiver. By the way, Lorenzo is now a reserve cornerback for the Buckeyes. But yeah, Sonny Styles is a playmaker, right? In the defense, multiple tackles for loss, passes defended. He's a problem there. And a fun subplot too, as I was looking this up, Sonny, as well as several other Ohio State standouts, were recruited. The main recruiter was Notre Dame's current D-line coach, Al Washington, when he was linebacker coach for the Buckeyes. Look, there's a ton of crossover, right? We all know about Marcus Freeman, played at Ohio State. James Laurinaitis coached, here at Notre Dame before he went back to Ohio State. There's a lot of, crossover. But you're telling me Jack Sawyer, right, Mr. Ohio State, Trevion Henderson, who's been there for years and has killed Irish in the past, even C.J. Hicks, who's not playing, they were all recruited by Al Washington. There's a weird, that's a dynamic there. The guy that recruited is on the other side. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. And we'll go to the offense, and of the 10 5-stars on offense, another 5 don't play. Right, 3 are quarterbacks that are in the pipeline: Julian Sayin, Devin Brown, Air Noland. 2 are freshman, sophomore wide receivers who don't play: Mylan Graham, Brandon Innis. That leaves 5. One is Trevion Henderson. We talked about a dangerous player, right? Huge run against Notre Dame last year. Big screen pass he took against Texas in the Cotton Bowl just now. But we just established he's at the level of Jadarian Price. That's the level he's performing at. No boogeyman here. Donovan Jackson is a draft prospect, right? He's a top 50 draft prospect. He really, his main position has been guard, but he's courageously moved to left tackle, really because of season-ending injuries to both of Ohio State's tackles. Chip Kelly, the offensive coordinator for Ohio State, was lauding Donovan Jackson for his play. So good. He's not in his natural position. Of course, Ohio State's going to have studs on their offensive line. So there's one. Another 5-star is G. Scott Jr., the tight end. Funny about, I'll say something about G in a second, but he's had a bunch of 5 or 6 catches games in the playoffs. Probably just moves the chains, not huge yardage. He's been solid as he stepped into for a team with injuries. What I love about G is back in July, he actually baptized one of his teammates while preaching and coming up with lines like, "Christ is working on this football team." Man, what a matchup. I mean, G and Riley Leonard, these guys, if they don't go to the NFL, man, they'll play in some, CYO senior leagues or something. CYO, Catholic Youth Organization. I played in that growing up. 4th grade, St. Boniface basketball champions. Yours truly, Dre, hit the winning free throw. I missed the second one, but all that matters is I hit one. We won 41-40. Big win for the squad. Went out for pizza afterwards. I digress. Mr. G. Scott, okay tight end. Not afraid of him, but look, they have parts. The 2 most important 5-stars I've left out are, of course, Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka. Probably position group for position group, the biggest advantage Ohio State has is their wide receivers. We don't have anybody like Jeremiah Smith or Egbuka. But hey, they're going up against our biggest strength, the Irish secondary. Whether they play man, whether they try to mix in some different looks, this is the matchup. This could be the matchup that swings it. Can we hold them down? Can we contain them? But look, I just went through the 25 stars on Ohio State, and it's a boogeyman, right? This will not swing the game. This is a talking point. There's a lot more interesting things to talk about, but I just wanted to demystify that because some people, and I'm guilty of like saying, hey, like I said, Notre Dame versus Indiana was a 4-star versus 3-star game against along the line. I don't think that's the case here. Point number 3. We have a lucky advantage here where these teams, these programs, I'll say, have played. This is now the 3rd straight year. So what do past Notre Dame and Ohio State games tell us? It tells us it'll be a close game. I rewatched a little bit of the highlights of last year's game in South Bend. Remember, Notre Dame didn't convert 2 4th-and-1s that Sam Hartman couldn't do, but Riley Leonard would. Notre Dame missed a field goal. Gerard Parker was our offensive coordinator. Somehow we couldn't run out the clock on that last drive, right? The screenplay. We dropped an interception in the red zone on their last drive. We had, everyone knows about the 10 men on the field. We barely lost, 17-14. I think they talk about this talent gap this year. I think the talent gaps existed the last couple of years too. And let's look at the spreads, right? So in 2023, this game I was talking about, the spread was Ohio State minus 3.5. Ohio State barely won by 3. Notre Dame could easily have won by 4. That would have been a 7-point improvement on the spread. You see where I'm going with this? Back in 2022, right? Ohio State was favored by 16.5. It was Marcus Freeman's first regular season game. Ohio State won 21-10, and they had to pull away in the 4th quarter. And we started a lacrosse player at quarterback. And we basically made up the cover by 5.5 points. So Vegas is telling us now the national championship is an 8.5-point spread. There's every reason to believe, right, that Notre Dame's coaching, Notre Dame's culture, Notre Dame's spirit, Notre Dame's toughness, the matchup with these two teams, Notre Dame's sum being greater than its parts, it should cover for the 3rd straight year, right? By about 5.5 to 7 points. Ooh, that feels close if the spread's 8.5, if that's what they're telling us. A common theme, though, of both those past games, Ohio State did finish better. They scored the last 14 points in 2022 and the last 7 in 2023. So does Notre Dame have to be up 2 scores to feel comfortable this time around? Probably, and yikes at the same time. But little bit of knowledge from the past. Okay, now, if you think I'm not glazing enough on the Irish, get ready for some more. So here's some more preview, foreshadowing, more cause for optimism on the Irish. And I got five more points to make, quick ones. Number 1, look, the Ohio State is the best at a lot of things. Their defense especially ranks the best in scoring defense, ranks the best, I think, in pass defense, even ahead of Notre Dame in terms of yards given up. But I don't know if they face a Riley Leonard this year. Right? And we say this a lot. Like we said this with Indiana. Like it's a different beast until you're facing it. And you got a 6'5" guy with long strides spouting Jesus, like running past you. You almost throw out the stats sometimes. And again, Riley Leonard's legs, I think it'll be a big difference. If he's able to evade the rush, Penn State got to him, evade the rush and move, I think he could give them trouble. Number 2 is also our boy Riley, because it's passing. There's 2 sides to every coin. Is it Riley Leonard, he can't do it, he's never done it in terms of like being able to pass from behind, while we're trailing, with the teams know we're going to pass? Or is it there's not a lot of tape on him having done it? Because that's more of an advantage. I'll be honest, he looked pretty good in the second half against Penn State. Engineered 3 long drives. Maybe we can look past some interceptions, because Penn State did a great job of forcing some interceptions, and that's what they do. Ohio State is not as much an interception getting team. But my point is, like, because we're so quick to say because we haven't seen something that they can't do it. I thought Riley looked good moving the ball in the second half and with the adjustments. whether it was the deep, in and out to Aeneas Williams, of course, a Greathouse play. And that brings me to point number 3 is Jaden Greathouse. 7 catches, 105 yards versus Penn State. He's only the second wide receiver to go over 100 yards versus Penn State this year. The other was Tez Johnson of Oregon in the Big Ten championship game. Greathouse is a sophomore, a true sophomore. Is he on the cusp? Are we seeing a breakout coming? Because he looked effective. He made 2 guys fall down on the 54-yard touchdown pass that was in critical time. We were down a touchdown. He kept getting open for Riley on 3rd down. If you remember what set up the field goal is the scramble and him getting open to scramble to convert the 3rd down. We know about Jordan Faison and his speed and shiftiness, another sophomore. Is Greathouse on the cusp? Maybe Bo Collins being injured wasn't the worst thing to free this guy up. What a better time for a breakout than a semifinal. Is something coming here? I'd love to see it. And as a side note, that sophomore class, you start putting things together and you look at guys like Greathouse, like Love. On the defensive side, Gray, Sneed, Bowen, Schuler, Osbury, Boubacar, who's injured, unfortunately. Throwing Jagasaw on offense. I think Faison, we're not counting. He may have been a traditional recruit. There's a lot of talent, a lot of impact, a lot of athleticism, a lot of explosive guys. Bodes well for next year. Bodes well for this year. And some stories come out about that sophomore class. I think one of their major recruiting trips was the Marshall game, right? Marcus Freeman's 3rd game ever and his 3rd loss ever against Marshall at home. And something about that team, those guys being there and then still coming to Notre Dame, I think that sophomore class is the backbone of this program right now, as much as, the upperclassmen commitments they're getting. And that bodes well, and that's what I'm talking about. That's the analysis I'll give. That's what I'm talking about. Point number 4 is I'm, of course, excited for the coordinator matchup. And look, I'll take Al Golden over anyone. Will Al Golden mix in some zone? Like Notre Dame plays primarily man, but Ohio State has fantastic wide receivers. Will Howard has better stats first man. Texas just gave some interesting looks with zone that really made it hard for Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. I don't know what he'll do, but I trust Golden. I trust whatever he'll do. And Denbrock made some excellent adjustments in the second half. Ohio State has great coordinators too. Knowles on the defensive side and Chip Kelly on the offensive side, where, wow, that's a name we've heard for a long time. And he seems to be doing some really incredible things there. So that's gonna be fun to watch and seeing which team makes the right adjustments. Before we get to the fun game at the end, my last big point, I'm curious what Ryan Day is going to bring to the table here. Is Ohio State going to replay the Michigan game? Right. For those that don't know, Ohio State lost to Michigan. You should know that. 13-10, 4th year in a row. I didn't watch play-by-play, but my read on it was Ryan Day wanted to out-tough Michigan. He didn't just want to win. He wanted to win a certain way. He wanted to win running the ball up the middle. And Michigan was ready for that. They could have been beaten any other way, potentially. So, has Ryan Day kind of learned that, with his team, they played incredible since that game. They've been blowing teams out. Does Ryan Day get caught up in the Lou Holtz stuff again? Or the Marcus Freeman stuff that, the pressure is still on. Whether he wins this game or not, people are still going to call for Marcus Freeman at some point at Ohio State. Does he still want to show Lou Holtz that this Ohio State team can be tough? Or does he want to win? The confounding factor here is that you actually beat this Irish defense by running the ball. Penn State showed that, not by passing. And Ohio State's strength is clearly those wide receivers. So like, which way do they go? Does Ryan Day like try to be tough and go at Notre Dame's perceived weakness, even though his team's strength is wide receivers? Like, there's such a pretzel here, and I don't know. I could see Notre Dame being this team's bugaboo like Michigan is. I could see it. So after all that, after all this, after all I've said, I've decided I'm not making a score prediction for this game. I believe the Irish will win, but that's less based on logic and facts and more just on heart and belief. Despite my best efforts to see in the bright side, the fact is this Ohio State team is deep, talented, the best overall team in the nation with advanced analytics, and now they're motivated, not just a chip calling plays, but also a chip on their shoulders. Like I said, though, I do think Notre Dame wins on Monday. The how, I don't know. I'll leave it to bingo. Yes, bingo. The game you play during activity time at cruises, resorts, and senior citizen centers. BINGO. And I say bingo because Notre Dame's going to need their own version of a parlay to hit. Or like in bingo, when first to get 5 in a row wins. Similar to the Georgia game, but even though I think they out-physical the Bulldogs and outplayed them, they also got sacks and turnovers and special team touchdowns and money field goal kicks. See, bingo's perfect because you need 5 things to happen for you before they happen for someone else. Stars need to align a bit. So Notre Dame fans, let's play Notre Dame title bingo. I'll read to you the 20 discrete events that I'll be putting on my bingo card. And if 5 of these things happen in a row on the right card, the Fighting Irish are champs. Side note, I'll be making these cards at some point before the weekend. Follow me on Instagram or X at cleatsbydre_pod. Download them, print them, and get your little Irish fans into the game with you, right? We want to get the kids involved in this one. This is a big one. All right, bingo. This should be fun. Now, here are my 20 events to be randomized on the cards. Remember, if 5 in a row of these happen, Notre Dame's going to win the game. Number 1, there's always a free space in bingo, right? Well, you get a free space because you have Marcus Freeman and Lou Holtz in the stadium. They have Ryan Day. Now, the other boxes that'll be randomized. Number 2, Notre Dame wins the coin toss. If they win the coin toss, they've been deferring, and that's been working out. That's number 2. Hopefully we get that one. It's 50-50 chance. Number 3, Notre Dame wins the middle 8 minutes, right? And this might correlate with number 2 if they defer, right? Because they've been great ending halves, great starting halves. They win the middle 8 minutes, they're on their way to winning. Number 4, we talked about this before. Notre Dame's got to be up 2 scores in the fourth quarter. Oh, that's a tall ask. But I like that. If they're up 2 scores, I think they can hold on. Number 5, let's get to some offensive here. How about a Jeremiah Love downfield hurdle? I say downfield, I'm being greedy. We know he had one kind of in the backfield against Penn State. He's incredible. If we get a downfield hurdle, something good is happening, some juju is flowing, that's worth a bingo slot. Number 6, if Notre Dame just piles up over 150 yards rushing. Michigan did that. Oregon did that in Ohio State's 2 losses. That's a big number, 150 yards rushing. Number 7, I'll call it specifically for Riley Leonard. I want to see 50-plus yards rushing. I want to see him prove that his legs are a difference maker. He got 80 against Georgia. Let's have that be a difference maker in terms of the type of runs that he gets. Number 8, Notre Dame, let's see 200 yards passing. I won't call that out on Riley in case Angeli has to come in for a little bit. But over 200 yards passing, you combine that with 150 yards rushing, I think that's pretty. That would be excellent against this Ohio State defense that gives up 160 yards on average. Number 9, let's keep the negative plays down. How about Riley takes less than 3 sacks, which will be a tall task based on what we saw of Riley versus Penn State and based on this Ohio State pass rush. But if he takes 2, 1, or no sacks, good sign. We're going to go to Ohio State's offense now. Number 10. Might be a little complicated for the kiddos, but get me on this one. If Ohio State runs a lot and runs poorly, right? If they're under 3.5 yards per carry and they're doing over 25 carries, that feels a little bit like that Michigan game to me. A little stubborn Ryan Day. That's good for the Irish. Number 11, if we get 2 Ohio State turnovers, Will Howard has been known through a pick 6 against Penn State, 2 interceptions in that loss to Michigan. 2 would be good. Number 12, 1 Ohio State turnover deep in their own territory. Kind of like that Gunnar Stockton, strip sack that set up a red zone touchdown. Will Howard was doing that versus Michigan. So it's, number 11 is 2 turnovers overall. Number 12 is 1 that's just really deep and backed up. It leads to immediate points for the Irish. And number 13, let's escalate this. How about a Notre Dame defensive touchdown? Yeah, that would be a big swing. Number 14, 2 fourth down conversions on offense, right? Notre Dame's going to have to be aggressive, and I'm not afraid of them doing that. We just got to convert it this time, right? We didn't convert those 2 fourth down conversions last year with Hartman. I think we get them with Riley. Number 15, 2 40-plus yard field goals for Notre Dame, and Mitch Jeter, he's been money from 40-plus. I think if Notre Dame gets in the red zone, they can score touchdowns, but drives will stall beyond. Can they salvage points out of that, where every point would be critical? Number 16, 2 Ohio State misses by their kicker, who happened to miss 2 versus Michigan that day. It can happen. It's not going to be an outdoor game, but it can happen. And we're going deep into special teams for 3 in a row. Number 17, give me a Notre Dame successful special teams fake on offense. They always cooking up something. They did it versus Georgia with that. Got the offsides. They've had a number of plays earlier in the year with Buckner versus USC. The penalized one that shouldn't have been penalized versus Virginia. There's been a bunch. Give me a similar to a 4th down conversion, but these are momentum changers. And we'll go aggressive, right? Let's go for Notre Dame special teams touchdown. Number 18 could be a return like Harrison has had. Or it could come on number 19, a special teams block. Is Brian Young due? Is he ready? Block a field goal, block a punt. And number 20, just for fun, and I don't know if this actually happens much, but just to get the whole tightly wound narrative going on this Ohio State team, get them feeling that again. Give me 1 Ohio State sideline yelling match. If you're watching the game, you see someone, someone barking at someone dropping an F-bomb saying, I'm going to transfer next year, you can mark that square. And that's it. So 5. You got to get 5 in a row of those. I don't know. I'd actually love to test this out. I'd love to run some advanced stats on it to see what the probability of any 5 of these happening. But I think these are keys. It's going to be fun. Find the cards. They're not going to be done at the time of this posting, but maybe by end of day Friday. Maybe it might go to Saturday. We'll post some bingo cards and just have fun with it. And that's the key thing. Your Notre Dame Fighting Irish are in the college football championship game against Ohio State, no less. How exciting is this? And look, if you're not a Notre Dame fan, if you're just a old college football fan, regular sports fan, hope you've gotten some enjoyment out of hearing me talk about the Irish. There's going to be at least one more pod, right? We'll do a reaction after the game itself. But just enjoy it. And just remember the journey this team's been on. Watch the Peacock series, right? I watched the 7th episode tonight. There's an 8th one coming out. Just reflect on this season and have fun. That's the biggest part. Okay, thanks everybody. Enjoy the games. Keep sharing this out. Any other college football fans you haven't hit yet? Anyone that you know that, hey, they're actually not really into it, but it's a big game. A lot of people are off from school and work on Monday. Download them a bingo card. Send it to them. Have some fun. Okay, take care, everybody. Thanks for listening.